Colleagues, I'm Vinesh Maharaj. I lead the smart manufacturing team at PwC. At PwC, our purpose is to build trust and solve important problems in society. And this is one of those important problems, right? How do we take South Africa forward in this new world of AI in the manufacturing sector? So is this going to provide a risk or an opportunity to us? So first of all, let's understand the context of manufacturing. So because some of you may not be aware of it, or if you are, please apologize in advance for repeating any information you may know. But in South Africa, manufacturing is a very important component of our GDP. It's one of the highest contributors, of around 12%. But most importantly, it has a high multiplier effect in our economy, meaning that for one job created in the manufacturing sector, we create 4 other jobs in the rest of the economy. And that is because of the linkages towards the primary sector, agriculture and mining, as well as then forward linkages towards retail and eventually financial services. So it's very important that we have a strong manufacturing sector. Secondly, manufacturing can exist without a strong local market because we can be export orientated and take advantage of other markets if we are sufficiently globally competitive. Now, if you look at what's been going on with our important manufacturing sector over the past number of years, it is unfortunately not a very good story. So if I've compared us against one of our largest trading partners, because you want to see how we compare against another developing nation. And as you can see, unfortunately, we've been deindustrializing, for the lack of a better word, since 1980. And this accelerated during the advent of democracy because our markets opened up and we suddenly found ourselves not globally competitive, and without protection of tariffs, imports exceeded and increased. And I'm sure all of you see these large warehouses on the side of our highways and byways. And with that, obviously, there's less manufacturing required in South Africa. And considering that each manufacturing job creates 4 others in economy, this is obviously not a very satisfactory situation. So what is driving all of this? So in South Africa, we have multiple challenges. It's the underutilization of our assets because of the foregoing message, where we're not really maximizing capacity because we're not competitive. We've been losing a skilled workforce steadily because of multiple factors: the brain drain, aging workforce, not sufficient youth coming into the system because manufacturing is not normally the most attractive occupation for young people. It is requiring getting involved in plants, and some people perceive a plant to be a dirty place, which is definitely changing nowadays. And then you've also got a lack of investment in the assets in South Africa, because most of them were built just after World War II, so they're reaching 50, 60 years in age. And then you have a choice: either rebuild the asset at a huge capital cost, or you have to then extend the life of asset by being smart, using better maintenance technologies, etc., etc. And then the other point is that we don't really have a lean manufacturing culture here in South Africa, what Toyota developed very successfully to take on the American automotive giants way back in the 50s and 60s. We still have lots of waste in our process. Anybody familiar with the lean manufacturing philosophy will understand that, first of all, before you automate any process, you need to make sure you've got an optimized process. And that is what we are seeing is not really being well applied across South African manufacturing. And then if you look at the potential then, if we had to just replace 5 to 10% of the imports from the Asian countries, the European countries, even the American, North American, South American countries, we could create an additional 346,000 jobs in South Africa. And this is analysis from 2020 when we were part of the Business of South Africa initiative during the COVID response. This number is probably going to increase, but there is a marked opportunity for improvement. But now let's consider this in the global context. So PwC runs an annual CEO survey, and this CEO survey looks at CEOs across a number of different industries. And in the very latest one, the shocking situation came about, or possibly not shocking, depending on your point of view of what the future looks like, is that almost 40% of CEOs believe that their businesses will not be viable in its current form in the next 10 years. And the balance of them think that in beyond the 10-year window, they also will not be viable. So this is very, very shocking. But it tells you that people are seeing a very disrupted world ahead of us. So what is their response to this? Well, we've asked them two questions, right? What investments are you making? And whether this investment will be used for preserving your current business or reinvesting to secure the future of your current business. And as you can see, the top three items here are automating processes and systems, which 60% of it is for preserving their business or future, upskilling the company's workforce as a priority area. So you can see, although we plan on automating, we still need people. That is a common misconception that if you automate, you need less people. It's just you need more people in different jobs. And then finally, what's relevant to this conversation today, and more relevant, I suppose, is deploying technologies such as cloud, AI, and other advanced technologies like IoT, et cetera, and you can see even that is now even a bigger impact. 62% of them want that for reinvesting in the future of their business to make sure they can reinvent their business model and still be sustainable in the decade that comes ahead of us. And you can see on the extreme right-hand side, the number of CEOs investing in these. It's over 2/3 of them that are planning to invest in these top three areas. So we've got a combination of business, process, and technology that we're trying to drive here. And we based on that now, what does the future of manufacturing look like in this newly disruptive world that we are living in? So in our view, this is what it would look like. The factory of the future will be a very fully integrated ecosystem of stakeholders. You will be able to connect to your supplier, and your customer's customer via a central control tower that will be aggregating data from a very well interconnected system. So to give you an example, if you had to go to your favorite fashion store and then buy a pair of leather sandals today, that store will then decrement its quantity of in inventory, and when that inventory reaches a certain threshold, it will then send a signal to the wholesaler to say, I need more stock of this particular type of sandal. That wholesaler will then send a signal to the manufacturer to say, I need more, and it'll be whatever the reorder quantity is. And then the manufacturer will go down to the suppliers and say, I need materials of leather and plastic and whatever else I need to make this. Now, normally, this will be a step-by-step process like I described now. But in future, this will be a parallel process. Everybody gets a signal simultaneously, so their response can be much more proactive, thereby reducing bottlenecks and creating more efficiencies in the entire system. And this allows item number one there, which is integrated planning and execution across the entire supply chain. But in order to do this, you need transparency and visibility, which means that every system needs to be interconnected, which obviously brings in your issues of cybersecurity, and privacy of data, et cetera. But this is how the future will look in our point of view. And to support all of this, you'll need advanced procurement, you'll need warehouses that are connected, you will need a smart factory. I'll talk a bit about that a bit later. You need digital logistics to make sure everything connects, and you're probably going to have autonomous vehicles moving your stuff around, robots packing and assembling things. You need digital asset management services as well, because your asset management, your maintenance activities, etc., will be at scale. And most importantly, your customers will be able to directly interact with you and with your principals, etc. So you'll be able to get very, very fast, personalized customer data so your customers can have a much better experience. All of this is prefaced on having a proper technology layer, which is the data analytics in your supply chain. You need to have digital product development and product lifecycle management, So you're going to be having products now that are moving from a physical space to a more digital space, having QR codes on them, tracking them, etc., adding more value-added services as subscriptions to the services. You'll see like high-end car manufacturers now are now requiring you to subscribe to certain services that are built into your car, but you can't use it unless you pay them whatever the annual or monthly fee would be. Then you also need to have digital transformation of your organization. And if you remember my previous slide, there's a vast investment in people because you have to take your people on this journey. If they do not buy into what you are planning to do in the future, your project will be a failure. You have to first win their hearts for what the future looks like, get them to buy into the vision, and then win their minds to take away any threats they may feel for what this new future would look like. And then you need to IT and other systems to support this fantastic infrastructure. Now, to look at how we are evolving towards that future factory, we survey our clients globally every second year, which we call the factory of the future. And in that survey, the latest one happening in a year ago actually, we found that 64% of their companies are still on the digital factory transformation. This is globally. So although South Africa is much, much lower down in this area. The second point is number 4. They spent over $1.4 trillion in annual investments in factory transformation. So there's huge investments going in there, even though only 64% of the companies are starting on the journey. But more importantly, number 7 comes into play. The companies are looking for more data. They want to use this towards the assets for maintenance solutions. They want to have more KPIs. They want to have a single source of the truth. They don't want to have Excel spreadsheets between the shop floor and the top floor. They want the factory floor to be completely seamlessly integrated to the top floor. So directors, CEOs, etc., can have real-time information to make better decisions faster. And therefore, they also need item number 6, a standardized technological backbone that prevents them from having to reinvest in different technologies all the time. Now, if you look at the South African perspective of this, what we're finding is that if you look at the bottom right-hand, left-hand corner, under 4IR implementation, most companies are spending money on condition monitoring, protecting their assets in South Africa, eventually with a view towards moving towards predictive and then eventually prescriptive maintenance is where AI would come into play. But if you look at the top right-hand corner, they are investing very little money compared to the international peers, less than 10 million rand in South Africa. But those of them who have invested are expecting high returns, massive improvements in throughput, massive reductions in cost. But they also want to have data-driven decision-making, the factory floor connected to the top floor, so they can have better decisions made faster, because we live in a very volatile environment here in South Africa. However, the challenges are that there's resistance from the worker councils, unions, etc., because they feel that people will be made redundant. But the dichotomy of that is, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, where the employers who are investing this expect to hire more people. So we really need to get everybody on the same page regarding what's going on with this technology adoption in South Africa, because people are expecting job losses, but that's not necessarily what's going to happen. We just need to create more jobs in different parts of the business, and therefore we need to take people on that journey, which I'll talk about a bit later. So looking at artificial intelligence in manufacturing, what is its relevance? How does this work? And here I'll get to the benefits and risks thereof. So we conducted a study a few years ago where we spoke about what is the real value of AI in your business and how can you capitalize on that. And if you look at what came out from that study, which we did with the Fraunhofer Institute in Europe and various other experts, including Gartner, and we found that there is a potential of $15.7 trillion to be added to the global economy by 2030. This is a phenomenal number because of the influence of AI. And this means that we could boost the world's economy by up to 26%. So these are not absolute numbers because there's various factors you involve in GDP predictions. There could be a crash in the market, there could be other aspects, but this is a potential upside based on the model that our team created. Now, in order to realize this, you need to have various strategic investments in the different types of AI technology. Now, you had your traditional machine learning technologies with recognized patterns, and it could help do some prescriptive stuff. That's then moving to collaborative robots, which work side by side with human beings, helping to make their jobs easier. And now you're moving to generative type AI like ChatGPT, etc., which is helping to develop content. So you need to decide what applies to your business. Take a 5-year view on your business and a 10-year view and see where you need to make these investments to get the most bang for your buck, because your competitors will be doing it. If you do not keep up with them, you will become relegated to the world of irrelevant organizations like Kodak and certain other companies that you are well-known examples of. One of the biggest improvements in this, and this is where people also see a lot of risk, is the labor productivity improvements, which you saw what our previous speaker spoke about as well. That will drive a significant amount of this GDP gain because you've got assistance now. You've got this technology to help you do things faster, take away your mundane tasks. So a simple thing like a report. Most of us spend 80% of the time putting together a report because you need to look at 5 different data sources, then create some sort of pivot table in Excel, then possibly you want to put it in Power BI for more people to access it. And it's instead of us then spending 80% of the time analyzing the data in a report and making better decisions, we spend 80% of the time putting the report together. So if you automate that kind of task, you have more time to apply your human mind to solving problems. Then you can look at the knock-on effects of this. If we are having this technology, people start seeing the benefit of it. And then you start developing more products because you can have a more personalized service to your client. Your client will make demand, your customers will make demands on you. I want my running shoes in XYZ formulation. You can then produce that within 24 hours or 48 hours, like what Nike and Adidas can do. But then the client will start giving you ideas and you're going to create more and more enhanced products. You can put sensors into these products, start getting them to subscribe to data, how many steps they took, what was the impact, etc., on their body, all other health sensors you can put around it and generate more income streams. And this greater product variety will then help us grow the entire economy. And because it becomes scalable, the costs start to come down, increasing affordability, which then drives more demand. Finally, to looking at where the greatest gains are going to come from is from the current technology leaders. China, as I purposely put in our first slide to compare us against them, is one of the leaders in this environment. And they are expecting to boost the economy by 26% because of their adoption of AI, and they've got the most patents being launched globally at this point in time in AI. And our previous speaker showed Chinese companies building wind turbines in South Africa. This is all tying together quite nicely. And the Americans have always been leaders in Silicon Valley with all the R&D that's coming out of this. And we expect a 14% boost in their economy, which is already a huge economy. So how would this be realized over the next number of years up to 2030, according to our team who put together this model? 55% of it will come from labor improvements. We can do things faster, better, with less effort. And the next thing would be is, as we create these different types of products, the adoption increases, various products get produced, newer products get produced. We can't even imagine what may evolve in the future. But then that 58% of that will start evolving, will be driven in 2030 because of a variety of products. But also, if you look at the orange graph here, the quality of products will improve over time because of the benefits of AI. We will not have as so much a human error. We'll be able to spot errors quicker and stop a production line because we can predict that the quality is going to drift out of tolerance, and then reset everything, investigate everything much more quicker, and have less rejects. Get the product to our client faster because our production processes are streamlined. Because of the integrated nature of the entire supply chain, it'll become a seamless experience for your client from the time of product ordering till they get their customized product or standard product off the shelf, creating vast economies of scale and efficiencies across the entire network. So let's take a deeper dive into areas where manufacturing is involved that came out of the study. Let's talk about the automotive sector. Here you can see, and if you're familiar with the automotive sector in South Africa in particular, it's almost a recession-proof sector because of the 2/3 of our production in the automotive sector in South Africa is exported to Europe and the UK. And the automotive sector is always leading in technology. If you go to any of their plants, you always see the latest 4IR or Industry 4.0 technologies, because that is a leading sector across the world. And they expect the adoption of AI in the near term of 35%, midterm 47%. And the impact is going to be, they're going to be impacted according to our impact index of within a scale of 1 and 5 of 3.7. So it's significant.